Coach, any message you want this group to carry to the fans in advance of the spring game?
Yeah, man, come out. Come see the Tigers. First of all, it's a chance. The Valley's open. You get a chance to come in the Valley, and it's the fans don't realize how much they help us. To just create environment for the player. Because it's just even with I don't know how many people were out there today. Was there about 800 maybe 500 people, maybe I don't know. But just people creates a little different deal, and you come into this stadium. So the better we can do to create a game day environment for our team, just the better it is to coach and teach and for them to develop. And really hope we'll have a great. It's going to be a lot going on in Clemson too. I think there's like a ton of stuff going on. So a great time to come. It's also Cat's birthday, March 27th. So that's Friday night. So anyway, should be a great day. So I encourage everybody to come out and get a peek at some of these guys. We're certainly not, you're not going to see the 49ers out there. We're not a finished product, but we got to practice and we got to get better. And the more of an environment we can create, the better we can develop our team. So I really hope everybody will come out and give us a great crowd. And it's a big recruiting day. It's a huge recruiting day. It's a huge day to get guys on campus. So hopefully everybody come out and it's just a chance to be in Clemson. Anytime you get a chance to be in Clemson, it's a good day.
All right, welcome to Bleav in Clemson Football. I'm Will Vandervort. That's Alex Dodd. We appreciate you guys joining us for our spring edition of Clemson Football. Alex, it's been a while. It's been since December. A lot has happened since December.
There's been a couple things I think that have happened. New people, old people leaving or being told to leave. A lot of things. An ugly bowl game.
Yeah. Most importantly, though, for everybody out there, Alex Dodd is a dad now. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you.
We need to get the cigars on here and be smoking cigars. And
if we would have had a planning meeting, maybe we could have just opened it up smoking cigars so everybody be like, what happened? What's the big win? Yeah.
It's a good point, man. That's a good point. That would have been pretty cool to have the cigars in our hands and smoking away as we do the podcast. I think some people out there would have enjoyed it. Probably more so our old colleague Rex Brown, probably the most.
Yeah, he would definitely be a fan of that. He probably would send us a couple. Maybe that's a side sponsorship deal we could get. The cigar episode every month brought to you by Rex Brown. Sounds good.
So hey, congrats, man. How's it like being a daddy now? You're about on a month now doing it. So how's that been like?
Yeah, a month and a day. So far, so good. You kind of just roll with the punches, and babies cry, babies poop,
babies eat,
babies need to eat. So yeah, figured it out, but it's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, you're gonna be a great dad. You already are, and you're gonna get better and better. I know as you try to figure this thing out as y'all go. But congratulations to you and Rachel. Obviously, you know how proud I am and happy for both of you. I am so. But yeah, a lot of other stuff's changed too. Just for Clemson football standpoint, since the last time we got together, there's a new offensive coordinator, the name of Chad Morris. There's a new special teams. Well, I shouldn't say new. First time ever, a special teams coordinator at Clemson, in Rich Bisaccia. I hope I'm saying it.
Sorry, Rich. We probably butchered that.
We're just going to call you Rich from now on. That's just the best way for, Alex is more of the speaking guy, so he should learn these pronunciations better than me. But
if you can't tell, Will couldn't even pronounce the word pronunciation, so it's not his strong suit.
Not my strong suit at all.
There's a reason.
There's a reason why I'm a writer. So we appreciate you guys joining us here on Bleav in Clemson Football. We're going to talk about the new coaching additions and all that stuff, but we're also going to talk about the new transfer people. Tons of news with that. I've been able to have. Excuse me, man. I am messing up big time today, Alex. I've had the pleasure to watch all these guys, and that's been good. And so I got my opinions on some of them. We got to talk to a few of them yesterday. That was really cool. We've got to talk to the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about that competition as well. So we got a lot going on. There's a lot I know you guys want to know. We're going to try to give you as much as we can today as we preview the spring game. You heard Dabo Swinney in our intro coming in, where Dabo was asking fans to come on out and participate and kind of give that environment they need. There's no doubt in my mind, I think the Clemson people will, especially considering the weather is supposed to be really nice this weekend, Alex. So that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, that always helps. And we talked about this on here every year, how important it is that Clemson still does a spring game. I know that a lot of people think it's not a big deal, or who wants to run plays where people can see it, and maybe you give people intel. Well, A, you're not running that many complex things in the spring game anyway, but B, it's an opportunity for fans that can't normally get to Death Valley to get out and watch a football game. It's expensive to go to a game, and you got to pay like on face value on some of these games, $200 now. So when you get a chance to go in there for free and get a glimpse of the Clemson game day experience, that's something that's important. That's important for a lot of people in the upstate.
Absolutely, and there's a lot going on this weekend. So starting at noon on Saturday, there's a softball game, big one. Clemson plays Florida State, so maybe you go over, check out a couple innings over at McWhorter Stadium, make your way over to Death Valley, watch the spring game, and at 3:00 after the spring game's getting over, there's going to be a baseball game on, and a huge baseball game for the Clemson Tigers, as they are really struggling right now, and they could use all the support they can need. I don't know. They may come into that game 1-7, Alex, in the ACC play if they keep playing like they've been playing now. They're 1-5 right now, but so go over to the baseball stadium. It'd be game 3 of that series, so you want to go check that out. Obviously, the Clemson Florida State softball game is a rematch of the ACC championship game last year that Clemson won. So go give the Lady Tigers some support. They've never beat Florida State during the regular season.
Yep.
So hopefully they'll do that on Friday, and then hopefully take care of business on Saturday and wrapping up the series on Saturday against the Seminoles. It'll be big if they can do that. So go over to McWhorter, check them out first, then go on football, watch the spring game, then go over to baseball and watch that. And I think maybe later on that night, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's a lacrosse match as well. It's like around 7:00 that night.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, hopefully this coming weekend is a better weekend for Clemson athletics than this past weekend.
Yeah.
I mean,
need to go there.
just to call it what it is, it's got to be one of the bleakest weekends in Clemson athletics in a long time. I mean, it's just a tough weekend for the Tiger sports teams, except for gymnastics, who gets a big ACC championship win that nobody expected. A huge upset in that one, but can't get much worse than last weekend. So
no, it can't be.
It's going to be a good weekend on campus.
And at the time, me and you got a text message from our friend Matt Freeman, and I was driving back from Tampa, so I didn't understand what he was meaning. But he's like, "Man, what a bad weekend for Clemson." Well, at that same time, Notre Dame beats Clemson in the second game of that series with the very controversial call. Interference. We thought was interference
that nobody's seen,
that nobody saw. Controversial
nobody
call. That
still
nobody
has
saw.
seen it.
But the people that were there saw it, and they called it a controversial call. And anyway, that happens at the same time. The women's basketball team's getting robbed in Columbia. Imagine that, Clemson getting robbed in Columbia, but they weren't playing the Gamecocks. They were playing Southern Cal, and
a different USC.
A different USC. And I thought it was totally botched by the officials in that game, and just a bad way for Poppy and his team to lose. And and then of course the night before, Clemson, lost. And Alex, look what I got behind me.
Yeah, Will, see your little March Madness sticker or something back there. Looks like you got more from the NCAA tournament than the Tigers did in men's or women's basketball this year. No, but I mean, in all seriousness, though, I don't think Brad Brownell could have done a better job this season with this team. I mean, honestly, I think this is the best.
Poppy too.
Yeah, Poppy too. I think this is the best coaching job of Brownell's career. You lose a stud guard at the beginning of the season. You completely change your identity on offense and go on a run, and then you lose your leading scorer in the ACC tournament.
Exactly.
And you go out there and go toe-to-toe with the team that beat the 1 seed 2 days later. So, credit to the men's basketball team, and obviously to Coach Poppy. And, Clemson women's basketball has been in a dark place for a long time. And, it seems like there's finally some consistency. And, the most exciting thing for Clemson women's basketball fans is this wasn't supposed to be the year. The year was supposed to be next year.
Yeah.
So with everything they got coming in next year, the sky's the limit for that program.
Well, and we appreciate you guys coming and we first of all appreciate those guys having such a great season and what they've done for their programs. I think both are in good position for the future. And it was a fun basketball season. I wish it was still going, but it is what it is. And now we turn our attention to spring sports and of course football. We always talk about football. That's why it's called Bleav in Clemson football here. So that's what we do, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. But before we do that, I want to give our sponsors a shout out. Obviously, our first one, FanDuel. We appreciate FanDuel allowing us to have this platform to be able to do our show on the Bleav Network, as well as I'd like to thank the Clemson Insider for the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Go on over to the Clemson Insider today. And check it out. All the basketball stories we told you about, that's there. We got all the spring football stories going on. So we got baseball, even though I don't know if anybody's really excited about baseball right now. But we got that. Got softball. There are people that are excited about softball right now, and maybe the Tigers are going to go on a run there in softball too. So go on over to the Clemson Insider and check it out. We got tons of recruiting information. Going to be a big recruiting weekend. You heard Dabo talk about that. So you want to stay with JP and the Clemson Insider and get all the news you can get. So we appreciate Robert letting us use this platform as always on YouTube. You can find us there and on Facebook and on X. So we do appreciate all that. And then also want to shout out to, Hope is coming soon. That's the all new Smoke on the Water. They're supposed to open up this spring, Alex, and I know you're hoping maybe by the time you come back home, it'll be there where we can do a show from there. But right now, it's they're getting it ready to go. They're supposed to be opening soon. I do know this. I went to their website, Alex, earlier. They're taking reservations.
Hey, come on.
So that's a step. You're getting close to opening. So the all-new Smoke on the Water will be opening soon at its new location at 64 Beacon Drive. That's on Restaurant Row off of Pelham Road in Greenville, South Carolina. Smoke on the Water will be open, like I said, this spring. The all-new Smoke on the Water will feature the same famous smoked meats it had before: pulled pork, brisket, beer butt chicken, and prime rib. But a few new things will appear on the menu as well. They'll also have their signature barbecue sauces where they complement, not smother, any of their smoked meats. The all-new Smoke on the Water will have Greenville's best happy hour, and it will still feature live acoustic acts. So Smoke on the Water, owned by Mike Schuler, was a staple in downtown Greenville for 18 years before moving out. Now they're going to be on Pelham Road. So right now, the all new Smoke on the Water, is available for catering and has its food truck. For more information, call 864-232-9091. Again, that's 864-232-9091. The all new Smoke on the Water, 64 Beacon Drive in Greenville, South Carolina. We appreciate those guys being with us.
Yeah, and I would encourage people to go on the Smoke on the Water Facebook page. If you want to know what day they're opening, they're going to post it on there first, and you can see the pictures of everything that they've done out there at that location. They have a great patio space in the back where they're going to have some live music, and seems like they're going to get fired up just in time to take advantage of those summer nights in the upstate.
Just in time, man. This is the time to open up if you're going to open up a restaurant. There's no doubt about it. And like I said, their acoustic stuff is second to none. So we're glad to have them still, Mike and the gang over there, still with us, and they will be throughout the course of the year. If you got any comments, guys, please leave us some comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you got questions on spring football, I've been at all four of the media availabilities we've been allowed to watch, so I can give you some firsthand account of what I've seen. Also, if you just have questions on the team or the coaches, I'd be happy to ask you. I'd be happy to answer that. You could tell I'm rusty right now, right, Alex? It's just like Will Vandervort just is not having his A game today.
Hey, it's going to happen, man. I know you got some water there in front of you. Take a sip. Let's get moving. Come on, wake up, Will.
Let's get rolling, man. So let's start this thing, and we'll start it off with unless you were under a rock, which if you're a Clemson fan and you're watching the show, I don't think you were. Chad Morris is returned to Clemson as the new offensive coordinator for the Tigers. Alex, I want to get your thoughts because we haven't had you on here yet to give your thoughts on what you thought of the bringing Chad Morris back to Clemson.
Yeah, in terms of just, kind of on the surface, my first thoughts when all of this was coming out were my first thought was, really? That was my first thought, because it just didn't seem like Chad was wanting to get back into coaching. From an outsider's perspective, he'd spent time kind of watching Chandler, his son, play, and had been doing kind of some teaching and mentoring for high school offensive coordinators and things like that. So it just didn't seem like that was really an option when the search came available. But then kind of the more I thought about it and thought about what were the issues with the Clemson offense this past year, which was sense of urgency, fire, maybe a little bit of fight at times. Chad Morris checks all of those boxes. Now, from a schematic standpoint, there's still a lot to kind of be answered. Offense has changed a lot since the last time that Chad was calling plays. The timing rules have changed a lot, to the detriment of his previous style of play. But for somebody that's been kind of in and around the game the whole time he hasn't been coaching these last few years, I'm sure he's made some adjustments, and I think that the Clemson offense could take a step forward this year, at least in some of those categories.
Alex, I think what you're going to see from an offensive standpoint is I think you're going to see what Indiana did. And if you remember Indiana, they didn't rotate. They didn't. You're it. There are 11 people are out there, and unless generally somebody got hurt or something, they didn't. They very rarely substitute out. And the offense can go as fast as it wants as long as it doesn't substitute.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're going to see them do is try to get these guys in shape, similar to what he did in 2011, and it's going to be go, 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 get on the ball. I've been at practice. I've seen it. Like they did the tempo drill yesterday, and dude, it was like old Chad Morris. We're all like, okay, what's going on? We're taking pictures because I'm trying to figure out what players are out there and who's not out there because they're going too fast. Like Garrett Riley, when they go tempo with Garrett Riley, it was almost like it literally was like a slow. They were taking. I mean, I know they weren't. They were probably going fast too.
But it was
compared to Chad Morris's, it's like it's not even close.
Well, Garrett Riley's tempo is kind of the standard tempo in college football, where it's you're not trying to snap it before it hits 25, but you are trying to snap it before that headset turns off. But Chad Morris, obviously different style, and I like what you say there with the way that Indiana ran their offense. Like there is a way to manipulate the clock rules and the substitution rules to your benefit. Mm-hmm. The only time that becomes a problem is if you're not completing passes. So exactly. That's the other big question. That's like, yeah, it's great that, things are going to be changing on that front, but the biggest question mark isn't going to be answered until Baton Rouge, probably after Baton Rouge, if we're being honest, probably not until you get into ACC play.
Yeah.
So,
and that can be a good news for Clemson because I think you kind of know there's a style. Lane Kiffin, just watch Ole Miss, you know what they're going to do. Because you mentioned it, Chad Morris has been out since 2020?
Yeah.
As a coordinator or whatever. It's like 5 years since he's been a coordinator. Like, yeah, you can go back and watch old Clemson. You can go back and watch Arkansas and SMU, and you can go back and watch that Auburn team when he was OC there.
Probably wouldn't learn
that's
anything
the
from
old
that
rules.
Auburn team. Yeah, you probably wouldn't learn anything from that Auburn team.
I don't think you're going to learn too much because that's like,
well,
yeah,
and here's
the would be the same.
Yeah, and here's the other thing in the way that Chad's talked about his time kind of being around the Virginia program is that, he was kind of a fly on the wall in a lot of ways. Like he wasn't on staff, but he was allowed in a way that, other quarterback dads aren't allowed into the process. So you wonder if kind of being under Tony's offense, which is Chad's offense, but kind of evolved into the modern era, you wonder if that, kind of shifted some things for Chad too, where he picked up, was like, hey, maybe the way that, Tony does this thing is more efficient than the way that I do it now. So you wonder if there's probably some give and take there, and some people that were on that Virginia staff. I mean, it's not just a Tony staff. I mean, there are people from other systems that are involved in that process up there. So you wonder if he took some things from kind of some of those other coaches on staff as well.
And also, let's not forget that he did go to other schools and kind of learn a little bit, if you will. That way he was staying. Like, it wasn't like Chad Morris wasn't trying to stay with the times.
Right. It's not like he's sitting at home on a Tuesday night watching, Breaking Bad.
Right. Exactly. He's actually out. He was actually out on the road learning, trying to stay in touch with the game, how the game is changing, how the game's evolved. That way, when he did get his next opportunity, he'd be ready to go in and coach. And here's the thing also, Alex, what you got to understand, you mentioned that you get the plays in the 15 seconds. Well, guess what you don't have to do at 15 seconds? You can keep signaling. And and Chad mentioned when he talked to us a couple of weeks back that he's going to do a lot of signaling. So basically, the quarterback's going to get the call in the head, in the helmet, and then the offensive line quarterback's going to talk to the offensive line about what the protections are and what the call is. Everybody else is looking to the sideline.
Yep.
Nobody's looking at the quarterback. So the only time they'll look at the quarterback is when they're ready to go, basically. But everybody, like the balls, they're going to go. They're going to look at the sideline, see what the call is. And then the quarterback's going to be ready. He's going to get the offensive line the call, and they're going to go.
Yeah.
So that's a way to get around it and keep the speed, the tempo going.
And do you feel like there were, and I definitely feel like this, but do you feel like last year there were some times where it seemed like Clemson kind of got caught with their pants down when the headset turned off?
Yes, several times. And I thought they weren't prepared for certain things. They weren't prepared for a defense when they made a substitution, that the defense would do what they were doing, playing some gamesmanship and making them slow down. And so there were a lot of things. I think that was an inexperienced coordinator. I think, that was only his second job as a coordinator. Let's just call it what it is. And I think, he got kind of caught with his pants down sometimes. And I think this is an upgrade. I know Clemson fans are not sure, but I think it is. And I think there's going to be a lot of things Chad's going to do. And there definitely is a sense of urgency. So Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney actually even talked about that, Alex. We talked to him a few weeks ago after the scrimmage. Kind of here's what he had to say about Chad Morris and getting used to him in this new era, if you will, the new Chad Morris at scrimmage the other day. Here's what Dabo had to say.
Be in a scrimmage environment with Coach Morris today?
Oh, it's great. It's great. Every day's scrimmage environment with Coach Morris because he never stops. He's and I love that. He's loud all the time. He's loud. He's full speed every play, every rep, and it's good because the guys take on that and done a really good job. I'd say he was probably frustrated today with some of the procedural stuff that we haven't been doing. But again, that's why you scrimmage, because then that's why you do this. Because then all of a sudden you get everybody out of the way, and now you got to go out there and you're in the valley and there's a few people there, and it's like all of a sudden, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Hey, we haven't been doing that. So speed of the game, all that stuff. He's been great. He's been awesome.
He's been great. He's been awesome. I love it. He says he's been loud. He said that's one thing he likes about Coach Morris is he's loud. And he is. Even Coach Allen talked about it with us, that he says he's never been with an offensive coordinator that screams and yells as much as he does. He says usually those guys are more quiet, they're more reserved. He says he really likes Chad because so far from what he's worked with them, he's like loud out there. He's boisterous. He's like getting on to his guys. He's fiery. He's what this offense needed, to be honest with you, Alex. They need somebody to kick him in the butt. You've seen the video out there where he says, guys, you got to let us coach you. You have to allow us to coach you because that's how you're going to learn this. And, man, it's been like that at practice. Every player says, yeah, there's a sense of urgency at practice. Like, it's like, go, go, go. There's no messing around. Even when they make a mistake, it's like, why'd you do that? Okay, let's go. Not harping on it, not staying with it. They're like, okay, we got to get going. It's about the tempo. And they've really been busting butts out there trying to get these guys. And this is what people don't understand. Remember the first time this offense was introduced at Clemson? And everybody, here's what they're going to see. They're going to see a very, I think, horrible performance by the offense in the scrimmage. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because if anybody remembers the first year in 2011, it was horrible. Remember, everybody was booing Taj Boyd. They're like, oh, my gosh, Taj's the worst quarterback in the history you've ever seen. They're going to be so horrible this year. But he only had a couple months at that time to learn the system. Then he got the rest of the summer. And what Taj Boyd did we see come alive once football season got around? Well, that's what you're going to see here. So what you see this weekend, Alex, people, don't panic. because trust me, I watched some of practice yesterday. They didn't look good.
And they're not going to. That was the other thing I was going to ask you from your observations at practice is, what do you see in terms of the picking up of terminology? I mean, because here's the other thing about Chad's system versus what Garrett was doing. The terminology is completely different. I mean, every word for everything is completely different than it was the way before. The way it was before. How have you kind of seen players pick up on that?
Well, they look like from at least understanding that they got a pretty good understanding. They're still learning. There's still some installation going, but I think the basics are there. And so we saw that with the tempo yesterday. I think it was intentional. Dabo let us watch tempo yesterday. I think he wanted the media to get a sense of what that was, of what it looks like and how different it looks with Chad. And you can tell. Yeah. And but there's still some things like, saw a couple bad throws from Vizina that could have been picked off. Saw Tate Reynolds, he looked like a couple times. He he was trying to figure out where he needed to go with the ball. So they're still kind of trying to catch up. Everything's still going fast a little bit, I think, for them. That will come with time. They'll be able to practice it more this summer, in their 7-on-7 stuff they get to do and all that with their skills and drills. So they'll be able to work on those things this summer and try to get better at it. But right now, you can tell that it's all just still kind of coming to them. They're only 11 practices in, man. You don't expect them to be looking like, the Taj Boyd in 2012 offense or the 2013 Taj Boyd offense, right? You don't expect that right now with these guys. You expect them to look the way they have looked. I didn't think anything of what I saw yesterday. I did see some improvement. Like for one thing, I'm going to tell you, I know you were curious what I thought about the quarterbacks. And the big news coming out of camp yesterday was Tate Reynolds was running with number 2. Whereas when we were out there before, he was running number 3s. Now he's jumped. It looks like Denson. Now we'll talk to Morris tomorrow. We'll get a little bit more understanding. The thought process there, is that something that they just did for that day to see how things are going? Or is that a permanent thing? Like, has he moved up to the number 2 already? If it is, we'll go there in a second. It's a telltale sign on something that's going to happen. Yeah. If it is, but we'll go there in a second. But as far as Tate Reynolds goes, he moved up to number 2. We saw him working number 2 yesterday. He was number 2 on the tempo drill. And he was number 2 on all the other drills we were watching them do that we got to watch the first 3 periods. So every drill we got to see, he was number 2 in the rotation. And I'm going to tell you who he reminds me of, Alex.
Who is that?
He spins the football like Kyle Parker.
Really?
Yes, he can spin the football.
You're not just saying that because he's also, potentially a baseball player at some point?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that because of that. That's not the reason. His body type is like Kyle Parker. He's got a bigger body type. He's like 6'2", so he's not super tall, but he's like when you've seen the guys we've seen, the last few years, Cade was 215. I mean, he's already. Did he come in at 215? I'm looking at the roster right now. Let's see.
It sounds close.
Where's number 2 at? Tate Reynolds. Yeah, he came in at 215. He's above 215 now. He's probably sitting somewhere between 220 and 225 is where he's at right now. So he's a bigger body, And Alex, what do they like to run in Chad Morris's offense? What's his favorite play on
quarterback power, baby?
Quarterback power. Well, you're not going to run quarterback power with Chris Denson.
No. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, if he's already 6'2", pushing over 215, he's already bigger than Kyle Parker. Kyle Parker was 6 feet even on a good day. On a good day, and but he's got he spins it like Kyle Parker. Yeah.
But his body type, the shoulders, and that's probably because he plays baseball. So there is probably some reason for that, But like he's got that same build to his shoulders and everything. Like he just, he looks build wise. He looks like if you put number 11 on him, you would think it's Kyle Parker out there at practice. But he's got the number 2 on, and you're like, for a fact that ain't K. Klubnik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he's 6'2".
Exactly. So, that's the thing that kind of stood out to me yesterday with him is how he spins the football, and then he's just a bigger body type, and his athleticism. We've heard about that. he's a guy I think can really push Vizina for that number one job. Now, Vizina, he looks okay. I think Dabo said it best, after the scrimmage the other day. Like, he looks like, everybody looks ho-hum. Nobody stands out. Nobody's great. He'd like to see him be a little more assertive. He said that about his quarterbacks, but he's like, nothing's really standing out that says one guy is separated from the other. So I think it's a pretty tight race at this moment, Alex.
Yeah.
And I think going into the summer, it's anybody's job. And I know somebody's asked me before, like, do you think Tate Reynolds could take the job from Vizina? Well, if he continues to do what he did, progressed already, if he truly is the number two guy, then yeah, I think if he's already made that jump.
Yeah, I mean, if you come into spring tied for third and you jump to number two, I mean, that's in just a couple of weeks. Well, here's the other thing too that might be an advantage for a younger quarterback in the system too. We can kind of get into this is, if you're coming fresh out of high school and you're going up against a guy who's already been on campus, but you've got a new offense, then you're starting at the same spot that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're physically ready, which is what you're saying. He looks like he's physically ready. I saw that in JP's observations yesterday as well, that, he looks the part in the uniform. And then that's another big part of it too. But if you can look the part and you're also starting at the same mental spot as the guy who would be in the pole position, then that helps you a lot in the spring.
I think so. And we'll see going forward what that looks like. And, we'll go by what we see and then what we're told later on with the coaches. What do we got here, Alex?
Yeah. Question from Justin Kirkland on Facebook. Are you expecting much of an improvement in the offense? I'm hearing we do not have a rock star quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, Justin, that's what we were just talking about. Dabo Swinney said that. He said everything's kind of been ho-hum. Nobody's kind of been at that. There hasn't been that guy who's been so assertive, like he's just taken over. They haven't had that. Now, what I will say is this, Alex, and Justin, we appreciate your question. If any of you guys have more comments or questions, please put it in there for us. We'll be happy to answer or talk about the best we can. I will say this. Everything we're hearing about Christopher Vizina from a leadership standpoint, though, is really good. And it's just not coach speak. Like we're hearing other players talking about how, he's kind of taking the bull by the horn, if you will, and how a lot of guys have gravitated towards him in that leadership spot. And so, the thing I will say, the best answer to a question so far this spring came from Christopher Vizina. He was asked, David Hale asked him from ESPN, asked him, like, if he's hearing all the chatter out there that, the only reason he's still at Clemson because he isn't good enough to go play anywhere else. What does he think about that? And he said, he has heard that. He was very honest. He says he has heard that. But he says, you know what? That just motivates him. And he's like, the reason I'm at Clemson is because I love Clemson. I'm a Clemson guy. And he's like, and I love Coach Swinney. And Coach Swinney told me this was going to be it. He said, I knew like a possibility of me 3 years before I get my shot. I was okay with that. And, just a very refreshing answer. He didn't dance around it or anything, man. He was like, Alex, like, boom. Yeah, I know. I heard that. And I'm ready to kind of show the people they're wrong, is what he said, and he says, I'm a Clemson guy. That's the only reason I stayed here, because I'm loyal to Clemson. So as a Clemson grad, Alex, you have to love hearing that.
No, that's great to hear. I mean, even if you're just a fan of the team and you're not a Clemson grad, somebody that is willing to stick around your program because they love it as much as you do, that's impressive. That's also what you want to hear from a competitor. I'm good enough. I think I'm good enough to get the job here, and I think I'm good enough to go somewhere else. That's what he's saying without saying.
Right.
He's saying I could have went somewhere else, but I wanted to stay here. And let's call it what it is, man. If you started a game in the ACC, and especially the way that he played in that second half against SMU, there's no doubt in my mind that somebody was giving him a call, asking him if he wanted to come play for him. So I think that's kind of silly that people would say that he's not good enough to play anywhere else. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of football programs that need a quarterback every year. I
They
mean,
take a Christopher Zena in a heartbeat.
yeah, I mean, Miami took a broken Carson Beck and made it to the national championship last year.
Exactly.
So to say there's not somebody that wanted to give him a call and give him a shot, that's kind of silly.
Absolutely it is. So, and then as far as, Tate Reynolds, like I said, he's moved into the number 2 spot. And then Chris Denson's number 3, followed by Pierman, and then followed by Bradley after that. Alex, I thought it was weird they had 5 quarterbacks on the roster. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm surprised nobody transferred. I think the reason they didn't transfer is because I think they were trying to figure out where they were in the pecking order.
Yeah. I mean, there's a new system coming in. Everything's getting shaken up.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you take yourself out of the race, before spring practice starts if you think you've got a legitimate shot at the job?
Exactly. And with that said, though, if Tate Reynolds has passed Chris Denson on the depth chart, if that is solidified, then at the end of the spring, you got to wonder what Denson's going to be doing. I have to imagine he's probably going to be leaving the team, right? I mean,
when I look at a guy like Denson, it's like there's no reason in the world that guy couldn't have the starting job at, every group of 5 program, almost every group of 5 program in the country. Like you couldn't see that guy starting at Coastal Carolina or, an App State or something like that. Just with his skill set. I mean, especially as many chaos offenses as there are in the group of 5, well, I guess group of 6 now. You'd think that he has a path to start somewhere else if he doesn't think he has the job here.
Right.
Or
the
has
question
a shot
is, like, when does the transfer portal window open again? Because there's not going to be a spring.
Is there a transfer portal window?
Does that matter? Does it necessarily matter?
Yeah.
Because he could still say I'm transferring out and just wait till the portal window opens. So I don't know. What does he want to do? Does Clemson have a special package for him where they'll do some different things with him because he is fast and they can do some things? One thing I did like seeing yesterday is during the tempo drill, guess who lined up in the slot?
Who was that?
Chris Johnson.
Ah,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So I like that, putting him in the slot, doing some different things with him. I think they're going to do a lot with him.
He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife,
Yeah, so he is. And I think they can use him like the way Miami uses their guy down there.
Malachi Tony,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so we actually asked Chad Morris about that, and Chad was like, yeah, there's a lot of things we can do with him. Yeah, we're going to try to use him in that kind of way. And we saw a little bit of that yesterday in the tempo drill. And so I found that very interesting. And I'm excited to see how they do use him because he's a guy I think you got to have on the field, if anything, because it makes the defense have to watch him. You use him as a decoy if you can, That's just the guy. That's what Miami does with Tony. Like, that's why they're so good. They're able to do other things because when Tony's on the field, the defense is like, where's 10? We got to make for 10. We got our eyes on 10. So,
I mean, and he doesn't have to be Malachi Tony to make a difference on this.
No,
offense.
and we're not saying he's going to be Malachi Tony.
In my opinion, last year, I know Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman, but the best player in college football was Malachi Tony.
He affected a game like nobody else.
He was the best single player in college football last year. But if you can get just some semblance of that, where you can move a guy into a bunch of different looks and you can get him in matchups with linebackers and you can get him coming out of the backfield, that's a guy who can make a whole heck of a lot of difference for you.
Yeah. Now, I know Justin asked me, could the offense be better this year? I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Chad Morris is a guy, he's done it here before, so why not now? I mean, and look at the weapons he has. I mean, granted, I know there's question marks on the offensive line and quarterback, but let's just be honest. The offensive line he had during his time at Clemson was not great, guys.
And also, let's point out that last year, this time, there were no questions on the offensive line or quarterback, and your offense sucked.
Yep, and your quarterback sucked.
So,
And so I mean, let's call it like it is. Like, Chad Morris has had less and done more.
Yeah.
I think he's got more at his disposal overall than he had that first year. The question is he doesn't have a Taj Boyd that we know of, and that's kind of where I think a lot of people are kind of like are wondering where the question is. But he's got outstanding playmakers on the outside, whereas that 2011 team really only had 2 guys on the outside. He's got way more. He's got 2 really good running backs. He's got he only had 1 running back on that team. You know what I'm saying? And he's got a good tight end, good group of tight ends. We see what he does with the tight ends. I think the guys are excited over there. Bentiker and all those guys are excited.
He's like, man, they might throw the ball to me this year more than 4 times.
Well, he said it. He says the tight end's they are going to throw the ball to the tight end and throw it to him a lot.
Yeah.
So,
and in today's college football, I mean, realistically, I don't know how you can't throw it to the tight end. I mean,
Garrett Riley found a way.
It's just tight ends, especially with the types of tight ends that are in college football now, they're such a matchup nightmare because it's not your, slower kind of lumbering down the field tight end anymore. I mean, you got bona fide receivers with big bodies out here that are
everybody has a Dwayne Allen. It's basically it. Yeah.
I mean, realistically.
So there's what we got on that. And what else we got, Alex? We got any more other questions?
Yeah, we got a lot of questions coming in. D. Smith, 1971. He's not optimistic. He said we might be in a world of hurt this season.
Well, I don't blame him.
I think a lot of Clemson fans feel exactly like you do, D. Smith.
I think they do. I agree, man. Why would you be optimistic? They were 7-6 last year. You don't really have a good, solid answer at quarterback. Let's just call it what it is. And you don't have. Why would you have any confidence in your offensive line right now? I mean, I think the offensive line will be better because I think they've recruited better at offensive line. These guys are now going to be older, and a lot of guys did get hurt last year. Let's just keep in mind that, man, some of your best offensive linemen got hurt and were out for the year last year, and so that played a role in it too. I still got concerns at center. I don't know if Harris Sewell's the answer there. We'll find out. I'm hearing he's having a good camp, but we'll see. So I get it. Now, we're going to talk about it here in a minute with the defense, but I'm pretty excited about the defense, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I'll let you get Tom Allen set up. We're gonna have a couple minutes of Tom Allen here in a few minutes.
Yeah, before we go to that, Will, I wanted to ask you one question that I haven't really heard anybody talk about yet. What have you been hearing from the strength room?
My boy D-Love?
Yeah, about D-Love, because let's also call it like it is. A lot of your identity on your football team, probably 90% of it, is forged in that weight room in the summer.
Yeah.
And it's forged at 6 a.m. and it's forged at 5 a.m. at mat drills. What have you been hearing from the strength and conditioning side that maybe is going to be a little bit different this year?
Well, first of all, let's give a little shout out to my friend Dennis Love, okay? So people know who Dennis is, because some people don't. Well, the last time Clemson went to Omaha, Dennis Love was the strength and conditioning coach for the baseball team. Okay. Then he went on to Denver shortly after that. And I don't know, he helped them win a Super Bowl, And so, and then the guy is so sought after, Alex, like Dabo said it, the Minnesota Vikings wanted to hire him as their strength and conditioning coach. And Dabo's like, no, we can't let him go, because he knew Joey's going to retire at any point, and he has to solidify that. So, they solidified it and said, hey, man, Joey's going to retire. You're going to be our guy. You're going to be our guy, because I think Dennis is, as I like to call D-Love, and that's what the player stuff call him. He is I've known him since those baseball teams back in the day, those really good Jack Leggett teams in 09 and 10 and 11. And they were just really good, man, really solid, strong teams. And he also helped with football, as well. And, I think if you talk to guys like Ricky Sapp and those guys, they'll tell you about him. And then if you talk to any guy in the NFL that had him, they'll talk about how well he is as a coach, and so what he brings. And we're already hearing from players like, what he's doing, and, how he's kind of, doing his own thing. He's bringing in his own system, and they're liking it. They're liking what he's doing, and it seems like they're having a lot of fun in the weight room. But at the same time, he's busting their butts, making them work. And, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think it was a good hire. I'm happy for D-Love and that he got that job. And I think that's just going to make, I think by the time it's all said and done, you're going to start to see a difference when it comes to strength. Not that Joey Batson didn't do a good job, because let's be honest, Alex, Joey Batson was a strength and conditioning coach of those national championship teams.
Yep.
He was a strength and conditioning coach of those teams that went 6 straight years to the college football playoff.
And where'd he go to high school, Will?
Where did he went to TR, Alex?
Travelers Dress Devil Dog, Joey Batson.
So
We are TR.
Yeah, and he went to Newberry College. Give a shout out to Newberry College as well. And Coach Etchews, who's his roommate and best friend, give him a shout out as well. But Joey did a great job at Clemson, and Joey is one of the legends at Clemson. He deserves the respect for what he did. You know, Clemson does not win those national championships without Joey Batson. I'm sorry. I know some fans don't understand that, but trust me, that's the truth.
Yeah, and this is why I'm asking too about D-Love is, you know, the foundation of your program. As much as people want to say that it's built by the head coach, that's part of it, but it's built in that weight room. The identity of your team is built in the spring, in the summer, in the winter in that weight room. And if that piece is off, then I mean, you can kind of wash it down the rest of the way. It's hard to turn the ship back if things aren't going well there.
Exactly. And so far, so good. And the proof's in the pudding. We'll have to wait to see still when the season starts. But we're hearing a lot of good things from the coaches, a lot of good things from the players. They really like them. And I think that's when he came in a few years ago, that was good that he already established that rapport with the players and stuff like that. And so that's going to I think that's helped. And but anybody that worked with him back in the day when he was at Clemson the first time, they'll tell you about him. They'll tell you about Dennis Love. And you just go ask him. They'll tell you about what kind of guy he is and how hard he makes these guys work. And so shout out to D-Love, man. One of the best guys on the staff. I'm going to tell you, honestly, one of the best guys on the staff they got.
Awesome. Well, let's shift over to the other side of the football. Here's Tom Allen talk about the progress of his defense this spring.
It's getting closer. I'm not going to say that it's exactly where I want it to be, but it's getting closer. And that's all, it's just about just step-by-step building it. There's no question if I'm handcuffed, but at the same time, you got to adapt to what you guys can do and be able to, help be successful, So we try to even just do some things, different in some areas to be able to maximize what our guys do best. But I also think just get some guys in that back. Because the back end is, my dad taught me this a long time ago when I was a young coach. He's just like, hey, that's the one position, man. If you miss that back there, it's, the immediate points. And he's obviously, understood why he said you got to have a great defensive back coach when I became a young head coach. And fully understand that, over time, but I just think that, we're doing some things that I think will help us a lot, big picture wise, and so getting the right guys and getting guys better that were already here, and just seeing like the growth of Ronan to me has been such a huge, I expected it, and when I challenged him in this off season before we got going here, it was just about that very thing because I saw it in flashes. I just felt like we just needed to get more reps at the position, so he's just playing at a really higher level of knowledge and ability to finish, and the effort and the toughness and the speed that was always there. It's just a matter of getting his eyes right and being disciplined and being able to learn how to play the position. But I think that's you take that and multiply, and you get a lot of other guys around him too that have a chance to elevate. And I think Corey's got a chance to elevate his game. Coming in year 2 in the system as well, and then all the other guys in the back end, and then the new guys with Corey and Jerome have been awesome. Been great additions for a lot of reasons, not just as really good players, but as their practice mindset, the way that they just approach everything. They're so coachable, man. They're just so hungry. They're so appreciative. They're just so, man. It's been awesome to see their impact on the whole room and the secondary, and then also the whole defense. So it's been like I said, I feel like we can do some more things, more closer to what I want to be able to do structurally, and then also just add some things that we think can help us.
That was Clemson defensive coordinator Tom Allen. Sorry for the audio there. It sounded like he part of it's Coach Allen. He's not a very loud guy.
Well, he uses all of his loud
on the
at
field
practice, and on the field.
His voice is generally gone by the time he gets to the media. And but what he basically was saying there was that if you did have a problem hearing it, was basically that they like the guys they brought in. They think they're getting close to where they want to be defensively now, but they still had some work to do to get there. Now, Alex, you're like, well, what does that mean exactly? Well, they went out, as we know, and they hit the transfer portal hard. And as he mentioned, his dad says you're only as good as your back end of your defense is. He talks about his dad telling him that one day. And he's like, it took him a while to learn that. And I think if anything Clemson fans noticed last year, yeah, that's accurate,
Yep.
because they were not very good defensively on the back end last year. So they feel like they're better. Now they went out and they've gotten a couple guys in obviously Jerome Carter. They got also Corey Myrick. Both those two guys have come in and I think solidified the safety position. We talked to both of them yesterday, Alex, after practice. And first of all, two great interviews. If you get a chance, go over to the YouTube page at ClemsonInsider.com and check out those two interviews. Both guys are outstanding to talk to, very open. Jerome's dad actually played against Clemson at Florida State. And he talked about that, which, by the way, made me feel old because I remember his dad playing at Florida State. And so I was like, oh, my gosh, how old am I getting when I'm now covering the son of a player who played in Death Valley. It's just like, oh, my goodness. A guy that was like back in 2005, I think. And so, wow, that's how long I've been doing this. And but anyway,
Will had a little flashback right there.
Yeah, I just realized how old I am.
A little misty-eyed.
So anyway, those guys were really good and they're very intelligent. And I like what they said. They're like, okay, they were both asked, like, why do you think you now can be better at this level than maybe you would have been if you were a freshman coming in? And they said, well, because they've gotten the experience. They've gotten to play. And, that's one thing that makes them better now, because if they were playing somewhere else, they may not have gotten that opportunity to play. And they would just still be coming in and trying to learn how to be a starter and everything like that. But these guys have played now for 2 or 3 years, at Division I football. Now, granted, it's a group of 5, but they said that's really benefits them. And they think they're ready for that jump. And it's like that's why they've been able to do what they're doing in practice, because things just come faster to them because they've played and they've seen things. That they said, what's the biggest difference, right? And they're like, well, the biggest difference, and both of them said the same thing. It's the offensive line and defensive linemen are bigger and faster. Like that really kind of like, whoa, that was an eye opener to them. The difference between Group of 5 and Power 5, And so interesting comments from both of them, Alex. I think they've already made the safety position better. It was an upgrade already from what they had.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. And that experience piece is so big. I mean, these guys are still playing college football. They were still covering good receivers. They covered some receivers that are going to be playing in the ACC this year. They're going to be playing in the Power 4 this year that transferred over too. So just because these guys played in a group of 6 doesn't mean they don't know how to cover. But that experience piece is a huge bump up for that back end. And they had to do something. Like you mentioned, it was putrid at times last year. It got better a couple games down the stretch, but it still wasn't good. So hopefully that can be the piece that kind of turns this over. I mean, I like what Clemson's got going in the front 7. Kind of interesting to hear the Kobe McLeod stuff that you put out yesterday as well, that Kobe McLeod's starting at the will. It was maybe a little bit different than what me and you thought even a couple weeks ago that Clemson would be doing.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Definitely. Those two guys also don't want to forget Elliott Washington, the transfer from Penn State. They talked about what a ball hawk he is. And a lot of people say, well, I've heard some people say, well, he wasn't even a starter at Penn State. Look how much he played at Penn State, though. He was basically a starter, guys.
Yeah, I mean, he was essentially a co-starter.
He played starter plays or minutes, if you will, as they like to say in basketball. He played starter minutes. And so, I mean, and he's out there balling. I mean, there's not one guy that doesn't say, oh, my gosh, did you see what Elliott Washington did today?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like all of them are like talking about the plays this guy's making without us even having to ask. They're just going like, we say, hey, who do you out there as you've seen? You're not even, and they're like, oh, Elliott Washington. On offense and defense, they're all like, Elliott Washington's like something to watch.
Yeah.
And so he solidified with Ashton Hampton. I think, we saw Ashton Hampton really come around at corner. One thing I found interesting yesterday, Alex, during the speed, we saw Tink Kelly playing the nickel or the tiger position. Thought that was interesting during tempo. We saw that. So, but yeah, I think, the linebacker news yesterday, Tom Allen coming out and saying Kobe McLeod right now at this moment would be his starter at will linebacker. And the reason why is because they're cross-training Sammy, but Sammy's not there yet. And so that they started today, you would see, Sammy in the middle, and you see Kobe at will, which is interesting because I thought it would be Jeremiah Alexander in the middle and Sammy at will. And you're probably going to see some form of that at some point because Coach Allen talks about those are the three main guys, and they're all rotating. And that's kind of like your three linebacker rotation to start off with.
Yeah, you're going to see those three guys on the field at the same time.
In some fashion anyway.
I think you're going to see some odd fronts.
Yes.
Without a doubt this year. So
I think they're going to do Alexander's going to be used in different ways because I think he's too much of a freak of an athlete not to.
Yeah, and he's got experience at multiple spots.
Right.
He knows how to play up front.
I think if there's a guy to fall into that Carter spot that they used back in the day where Carter would sometimes line up as that tiger, but then he'd also line up at middle, and then he also line up, at the will. And I think that's where they want Jeremiah to go. Yep. I think they can use Sammy that way, but Sammy's not as big as Jeremiah.
Right.
Jeremiah can basically be like a defensive end.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can put Jeremiah Alexander as a second edge.
Yeah.
On the side with Jaheim or on the side with Helt. So that'd be tough to guard up front.
Yeah, that's going to be hard. It's going to
good luck matching up with that.
Exactly, you're going to have to make decisions at that, which is what you want him to do, and that lets a guy like Jaheim Lawson get loose and do his thing.
Yeah, so I think they're going to have a lot more ways, kind of just with the versatility of this front seven, to cause some tension on the O line, and like you said, make guys make decisions that can be helpful for them. And if you can cover on the back end, it gives you the flexibility to do that.
Exactly.
If you can't cover on the back end, doesn't matter what you do up front. And that's what Tom Allen's saying. His dad told him, you're only as good as the back end of your defense. If you can't cover on the back end, you can throw eye candy up front, but somebody's going to take 3 steps and burn you.
Yep, exactly, which is what happened last year.
Yeah.
Duke
game.
Marcus Strong was great yesterday. We got to interview him for the first time, the former Oklahoma player. And he talked about Brent Venables, his relationship with Dabo Swinney. You can check that article out later on the Clemson Insider. I wrote that article. And it's like, he says, Coach Venables has the same Daboisms as Dabo has. He says, so when he got to Clemson and heard Dabo talk, he's like, hold on a second. I've heard that. Where have I heard that before? And he's like, hold on a second. That's what Coach Venables used to say. So Venables is obviously taking a lot of the Dabo stuff and taking it with him to Oklahoma. Yep. Said the culture is very similar there, and it was kind of a no-brainer for him, come to Clemson. He's like, it just made sense. And he said he liked Oklahoma. He liked playing for Coach Venables. He said their relationship is still good. He even when Clemson started coming into the picture, and they started showing interest in him, he even called Coach Venables and said, hey, what can you tell me about Coach Swinney? What can you tell me about Clemson? He talked to Miguel Chavis. I also talked to help me out.
Todd Bates.
Yeah, Todd Bates. Talked to him about Clemson. So he's like, and he said they all had glowing things to say about Clemson and Dabo Swinney and all that. And he's like, that kind of flies in the face of the narrative from the Oklahoma Twitter bots who were saying that Dabo Swinney stabbed Brent Venables in the back. And because they don't know anything.
I know.
Just like, Brent stabbed Dabo in the back by taking his defensive players. I think that was part of the plan all along. His defensive staff, with him, right? Yeah. I think Dabo knew that was coming. And, so, it kind of works both ways. But, we know Venables didn't stab Dabo in the back, and we know Dabo didn't stab Venables in the back. You know whose box Venables been in every time he's come to Clemson the last few years? He's in Dabo Swinney's box. The guys are great friends, man. And Strong talked about that. And he said the only reason he left Oklahoma was because he felt like coming to Clemson, he could be the guy. He says, where Oklahoma, there's a lot of guys. And he says, not that I couldn't take the job and be a starter. He says, I have confidence in myself I could, but he's like, I wanted somewhere where I could just be the guy. And, I kind of understand that, what he's saying. He wasn't sure he's going to be the starter at Oklahoma, and he wanted to go to a place where he could be the starter.
Yeah.
And
Clemson, let's call it what it is. Clemson wants somebody to be the guy up there right now.
They do. And he seemed like he's come in from what we've heard, and he's having a great camp as well. And he loves it. He says he loves Clemson, and he says, man, this is like, he's like, I couldn't have picked a better place to come to. And he says it's actually been easy because it is like being at Oklahoma. So he's like, far as learning everything and the way the people are, he says it's very similar. And he said, so my favorite part of his story was he said that I asked him, I said, well, Miguel Chavis played for Dabo. So what did he tell you about playing for Dabo as opposed to just coaching for him and all that? And he says, oh yeah, he says he's going to be demanding. He's going to challenge you. He said, but more importantly, if you do everything he asks you to do, he's going to make you a better man. And he's like, he said, then second of all, he said, Miguel says, also, he says, I already love you. This is Miguel telling him this. He says, but now you have officially become a Clemson brother, which means I love you even more. And now you're representing me. So you better do it right.
That sounds about right. That sounds like the Miguel Chavis we know and love.
Yes, it is. So that I thought that was a good part of the story. And so just, it was really cool, just kind of hear the different perspective of those guys and, what they're looking at and seeing as they kind of learn the Clemson way and just kind of, it's interesting because Alex, like there's so many new faces on defense, and then on offense, it's like, it's really not.
Yeah.
You got a quarterback battle going on, and the offensive line's got some question marks, but the guys, you've seen some of those guys already. So it's not like they're brand new guys, right? I mean, you got Elijah Thurman, you got Harris Sewell, you got 74 there, the freshman
Braden Jacobs.
Yeah, so you got a couple guys there that you've already seen play. So we'll see how that all meshes together. But the defense is interesting because this is it's like new guys everywhere, man. And it's it's going to be interesting to see as they get into the season. I know we got a couple more comments and questions there. What do we got, Alex?
Yeah, so we got old Possum Jenkins getting in here on YouTube. Nice username there. Where do you rank Clemson in the ACC, and can they compete for an ACC championship?
Yeah, Possum, I'll tell you.
A little early for us to kind of give a judgment.
Well, it's too early to get a total tell, but I can tell you what we do know right now is Vegas puts Clemson number 4 at plus 1,600. So that would mean Clemson would be a contender if that's the case, right?
Right.
Obviously not the favorites, but would be a contender. If you're top 4 in the league, you're considered a contender. And I say that's where I would put them at right now. I think there's too many questions to put them any higher. You do know Clemson's got some talent. Clemson still is as talented as a lot of the other teams out there. The only team probably more talented overall than Clemson from a roster standpoint is Miami.
Yeah,
I would say Miami's the only one more talented than Clemson from a roster standpoint. But I think Clemson does have a talented roster. It's just a matter of can they mesh and get together and get going. And I think the biggest question is on the offensive side of the ball. I think defense is going to be better, but as Tom Allen says, they're not there yet. So don't think like, oh my gosh, defense is going to be so much improved. Tom Allen says they're not there yet. They're better, but they're not where he wants them to be yet. And so we'll see what that means going forward.
Yeah, and then we got Chris Hammock on Facebook gets in. Will the O-line be improved this year with the new offense in place? Kind of a two-part question there.
Yeah,
how does the new scheme affect the offensive line?
Yeah, I think Matt Luke and Chad will probably work better together than Matt Luke and Garrett Riley. And I think the reason why is because I think Chad leans on that knowledge of his offensive coach a little bit more. Not saying that Garrett didn't. I don't want to put words in Garrett's mouth because I can't totally say with 100% certainty, but Chad has got a lot more experience. He's been around the block more. And when you got a guy like Matt Luke in your room, you're going to lean on him a little bit. Say, hey, what can we do? What can we do to help you to make you better? And so I think you're going to see a lot of that this year where the coaches are kind of like taking those experiences. Remember, you got Chad Morris, Matt Luke, two former head coaches on an offensive staff, 2 SEC head coaches at that too. So they big time college football head coaches. Were they successful? No. But you know what happens when you're not successful, Alex? You learn. You learn more from failing than you do at any other point in your life.
Yep.
And so those 2 guys being on Dabo's staff along with Tom Allen, it's just another head coach. And then you got our boy Rich on the new special teams coordinator. He was a former head coach in the NFL with the Raiders. So
he had a good team with the Raiders. I mean, he finished well with the Raiders.
Finished
in
good,
that season where he got the interim tag.
Got him into the playoffs. Should have got the job, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But so you got that to lean on as well, and I think that's having all those kind of guys in the room. You got 3 former head coaches with offensive knowledge that are in the same room together. I think that's going to help because I think Rich is going to be a guy that helps with the offense because he was a running backs coach and tight ends coach. He's done everything in the NFL.
Yeah.
But at Clemson, he was the running backs coach. By the way, you know who was the running backs coach for at Clemson?
Who was that?
Raymond Priester.
Yep.
Before Travis Etienne, he was Clemson's all-time leading rusher. So I think this guy knows a thing or two about offensive football. So he'll add some help in there too. So will the offensive line be better? Probably. I think it'll be better. I don't think it'll be worse than it was last year because it was bad.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on what you mean by better. Do I think that the personnel is going to be better? I'm not sure.
I think it will be.
I think it
well
could
the last
be.
couple of years.
I think it could be. I'm not sure, but
I don't think those guys. I don't think those guys they recruited were bums.
No, I don't either.
And I think they've recruited some really good talent at offense, better than they have in years past, even the national championship years. The recruiting coming in is better than those years. So I think just from that standpoint, they're better. And then I think Matt Luke's a better coach too, and I think that will show. And I know people are like, "Oh my gosh, look how horrible we were." They were in a lot of ways, yes. But they're also like considering like the injuries and everything that happened. That was part of why they were bad.
Yeah.
So,
but where I think that they'll be better is what you mentioned. I think schematically they'll be better.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they'll simplify things when they need to simplify things instead of kind of sticking to this is who we are, this is what we do, even if it's not working. I think there's going to be, because of what you mentioned with Matt Luke's experience and Chad's experience, and even like you mentioned, Rich Bisaccia's experience. I think that they're going to be able to kind of solve problems better when they arise, and I think that could help them be a better unit. Where maybe you're not saying at left guard you're better than you were at left guard last year. That might not be the case, but I think as a whole you can be better schematically, and you can simplify things when you need to. I think they're going to be less willing to kind of let that be the hill they die on this year than they were last year.
All right, what else we got?
Jeb gets in with special teams question. Speaking of special teams, how does the return game look along with our punter?
Okay, so good questions. It's still too early to tell on that stuff because we only get to see a little bit of it right at the start of practice. I could tell you that I did notice, I thought it was interesting, TJ Moore was returning punts yesterday. So was freshman receiver Naheem Burrows was returning punts, as was who else did I see? There was one other person.
Gordon Sellers.
Yeah, Sellers was returning punts as well. It was Sellers more than Burrows is how it was going. So we didn't get to see kickoff this time. Last time we got to see some different kickoff drills, which are interesting. It's really the first time we kind of got to see some of that stuff. And so I did like, though, the first day Rich was coaching after he got hired. I'll tell you one thing that's different about him. Like, he's coaching the special teams. Like, this is his job. Like, he's not coaching running backs also. He's not coaching wide receivers. He's not coaching tight ends. No, he's coaching just the special teams. And so on that first day, we were noticing, like, he's down in there, man. He's getting down in there right in the ear hole of the player. And I don't know what he's saying, but I'm sure it's something that needed to be said. Okay. And like, he's down in their ear hole, man, just letting them, he's like getting down in there. He's showing them how the proper stance they need to have, and this is on punt protection, And so he's doing punt protection. He's doing punt rush. We saw a little bit of both of those. We saw field goal protection and field goal rush. And so we've seen a little bit of also, like I said, the kickoff stuff. So they're already implementing some new things. And to see him just coaching special teams, like I think that's going to benefit these guys more than anything, is that they got a guy coaching how to do these things instead of coaching other things where his mind is in two different places. I think having one coach that just does this only is going to benefit Clemson a lot.
Yeah, I mean, because you hear all the talk about how it's the third side of the ball, but I don't know that it's necessarily been treated that way from a personnel standpoint up to this point with Clemson. This seems like a kind of a different approach to special teams that kind of gives it a little bit more weight. Just to have a dedicated coach instead of kind of everybody pitching in to get it done. There's a dedicated strategy on that side now.
Yeah, 2017 is the last time you had a punt return for a touchdown. That was Ray McLeod against NC State. And then 2011, Sammy Watkins had a kickoff return for a touchdown against Maryland, and that comeback win. That's the last time they had a kickoff return for a touchdown. Okay, so we're talking almost a full decade without a punt return for a touchdown. And we're talking almost a decade and a half without a kickoff return for a touchdown. I can't remember the last time they blocked a punt.
And they've had all those things happen to them in the last 2 years.
Yes, everything I mentioned has happened to them in the last couple of years. I can't remember the last time they blocked a punt or blocked a field goal and scooped it up and ran it back for a touchdown. Can you remember any of that?
I can't think of any of that. I can think of like 5 examples where it happened the other way.
Yes.
I mean, I can.
I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, special teams botch cost Clemson the national championship against Alabama. Well, they would have won 3 out of 4 years, including back-to-back years.
And they might have made it to a national championship if their special teams was better when they lost the Sugar Bowl to Alabama in 2017.
Might have. Yeah, good
They
point.
probably would have, because special teams is what lost in that game too, because they couldn't flip the field.
That's right. That's correct.
And Alabama had a big return.
That's right. That changed field position in that game also in the second half. No, you're right. Yeah, so I think special teams is going to be much, much better because now they have a concentration on it. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's kind of the gamut of it here. Okay. Kind of as we close, Will, I want to ask you, what do you want to see in the orange and white game this weekend?
Okay, first thing I'm going to go is what I don't want to hear from the fans. Okay. It's not going to be pretty, guys. I don't expect the offense to be pretty. I expect the defense to dominate, and that's what you want to have happen. Because if the Clemson offense comes out there and is just, schooling the defense, then you got problems, okay? Major problems. And I don't want to hear you complaining about the quarterback situation, or I want you to pay attention to individual things. This is what I always look at. In the spring games, I don't look at, like, the offense had this many yards and the defense gave up this many, and I don't look at that. I look at individual things.
Yep.
So I want to watch the quarterbacks individually, like the command of the offense, their throws, like how accurate were their throws? What was the spin look like on their throws? Are they spinning it like they should as quarterbacks? Are they lame ducks being thrown up in the air? Running back, I want to see how the running back hits the hole. Do they hit the hole with authority? And so I'm looking at that. On the offensive line, I want to see if guys are holding their blocks. I want to see if guys are doing what they're supposed to do. Or, so those are the things you look at in a spring game. You don't look at the whole offense because it only takes one guy to screw up and the whole thing's just, and then you're like all complaining. Well, he's probably screwing up because, guys, he's only had 11 practices at this point. Yep. It's hard. So you can't really a real good judge of what they're going to look like offensively or defensively, to be honest with you, because their offense should be bad. And, the defense should dominate. So on the defensive side, I want to make sure, see if they don't give up any plays, big plays, I want to see, I want to watch the individual. I want to watch the footwork of the corners. I want to watch the safety, seeing if they're like doing what they're supposed to and they're communicating, right? I want to see the linebackers. Are they able to cover the tight end and the running back out of the backfield? I want to see if the defensive ends can do more than one move, to try to get to the quarterback. I want to watch these individual matchups. Is what I want to see. And that's what you should see if you come to the spring game, or watching it on Clemson Plus or whatever, that's what you should be looking for as well, and not looking at the whole thing, So I don't want to hear people complaining about how sorry the offense looks after the spring game. That's the number one thing I do not want. And I just told you everything. Alex, I'm going to turn it to you. What will you be looking for in the spring game?
Yeah, I want to see, like you mentioned, I want to see the defense control the pace of the scrimmage. I do want to see the offense, I want to see the offense use the skill set of the guys that they have. I know it's not going to be pretty. I know, you're not expecting anybody to necessarily go off, but I want to see how they use the skill set of the players that they have, because they do have skilled individual players, especially on the outside. Mm-hmm. So I want to see that. And yeah, I want to see what that secondary looks like. I want to see those guys make some plays and how they cover some really good receivers, because that's who they're going to be going up against in that scrimmage. Regardless of how vanilla it looks, there are going to be some big time matchups in the secondary, and I want to see how those play out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. We're going to do this again next week because we're going to review the spring game and kind of get everybody set for. By that point, Clemson would have their last practice. Dabber's doing it different this year, Alex. So we're going to have a practice tomorrow. That'll be practice number 12. And then they're going to have practice number 13 on Thursday. Saturday will be practice number 14.
Okay.
And then on Monday, they're going to have a practice. And Dabo says they did that this year because they kind of feel like they're kind of rushing in the meetings to get guys where they want to be, or maybe they do it before the spring game and guys kind of maybe lose it and it's not as fresh. So they want the last thing that they do to kind of have a practice where they go over everything. They want guys what they need to do going into the summer, how they need to do it, and kind of do those things. So they're going to have like a practice on Monday. That would be the actual last practice of the spring. And they'll review the spring game with the players, which they haven't done and got to do in the past. So they're going to have that to do that. And he says, so Dabo's like, it's an interesting change, and they like it doing it this way, and they're going to see how it goes. So, so next Tuesday, we should have a better idea, of what we saw in the spring game and what maybe the Tigers are going to do come during the summer and things they need to work on and things of that. So it'll be pretty fun. So you want to check us out next week as we'll talk all things Clemson spring game and get you set for the summer and kind of give you an idea maybe what we think the Tigers will do. Maybe we'll play a little win-loss game, Alex, with Clemson football.
Could be fun, could not be fun. We'll see. We'll definitely be interesting, and we'll definitely be here.
Absolutely, we will. Well, we appreciate all you guys being with us today for Bleav in Clemson Football, presented by FanDuel. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.